I have to do a bit of hill climbing to get used here. It's well worth the climb. So, hi folks, welcome to the channel. I'm Steve. Welcome to Spain on a beautifully hot Saturday afternoon near the end of November, but it's been freezing for the last couple of days. But not today, the beauty of Spain. Right, in this video, I'm going to explain something that can be, I suppose, confusing to people who don't know any better, and that would have been me before I came here to live. You walk around places like Villamartin, Lasagna, and even Torrevieja itself, and you see apartments, houses, apartment blocks everywhere, thousands of them. But when you actually try to rent one, especially now, there's almost nothing available. It's really difficult. I get so many people asking me about apartments, and what I was able to tell them 3 years ago, I can't tell them now. There just aren't as many, both to rent and buy. So of course, the fewer rentals that there are out there, the more expensive they're going to be and harder they are to secure. So today, I'm going to explain why Spain has so many empty homes with very few available to rent. And because this is my knowledge base, I see it as especially here in the sort of Alicante, Valencia region. And just as a quick starter, if you're planning on moving here to live and rent long term or buy, honestly, you might want to do it sooner rather than later. Okay, so yes, I'm going to talk about the strange reality of the rental market and why it often catches people out. So I'll call this first bit, walking through the illusion. So if you were out here walking around right now, you'll see what I see every day. Rows and rows and rows of apartments, nice balconies, communal pools, urbanisations spreading as far as the eye can see. And outside July and August mainly, they're almost silent. This is a Saturday afternoon. The footage I'm showing you now, I just took 20 minutes ago. Do you know you can walk a good 10 minutes and not meet or see a single other person, just the odd car driving past. And in the evenings, very few lights on and no kids playing. I never see kids around here outside of the tourist months. Just tons of shuttered windows and empty terraces. So naturally, people assume with all these empty buildings, I assumed with all these empty buildings, renting here must be so easy. I go to Thailand a lot, and Thailand's much busier, yet you can rent absolutely no problem. There's no yearly contracts or anything like that. You just go into a apartment block and sign yourself in, and they'll let you stay for a year for 300 a month. Not here. That's just all a big illusion. Because despite of the thousands of homes around me and everywhere that I go, finding a decent long-term rental, especially at the right price, can sometimes feel harder than finding a unicorn. I should have said a leprechaun, shouldn't it? Maybe an Irish. So why do so many homes sit empty? And let me break down the first part of the mystery. Very few empty homes in Spain are available. The vast majority of these properties are owned by foreigners, families who only come for a few months a year. Some you never see people in. In my development, there are several completely empty, full-time properties which are run down, but owned by people. So there are people that can afford to have a home away from home that they don't use very much, but they don't want to be letting out to anyone else who have no interest in long-term rentals and all the hassle that can bring. And a lot of people don't rent them out because they are worried about potential non-paying tenants. They're just worried about taking that risk and ending up with squatters. And apparently there's a rise in a thing called, I'm not good at pronouncing Spanish, inquilino, okupa, where tenants gain legal access, but then as soon as they get in, they stop paying. And the eviction process, especially for second homes, can be very slow and very costly, which keeps many owners just preferring to keep their shutters down when they're not there. And then there are a lot of properties which people come to, but they haven't updated in years, and they can't be bothered with the hassle of what might be involved in preparing a house for rentals, short or long term. And apparently there are a surprising amount tied up in inheritance disputes. If you own a property in Spain, you're much better to have a will written in Spain. Because if you leave your property, if you're from the UK, for example, and you leave your property to your family member in your UK will, it's apparently a nightmare to get it sorted out. Now, there are a percentage of apartments in my development that people do rent out in the busy season, which is, I always say July, August, but it's probably June, July and August, known as seasonal rentals, the type you're going to get in Airbnb, etc. But they do it because it allows them to make quite a lot of money. You can make in 3 months a year's normal rental, because you're renting them out, well, maybe not just that much, but you're renting them out for, let's say, a small apartment out for 300 a week, and you're maybe only charging 500 a month if you're renting out long term. So it allows them to make a lot more money in a shorter space of time, and then gives them time to tidy up their house after the season's passed. So the number of homes that ever become available for long-term rental is tiny. Next, why this hits expats harder? People wanting to become residents, people who want to immigrate here. If you think about it, someone like me who did that, you're wanting somewhere that's nice, you're wanting somewhere with a pool, you're wanting somewhere that's fully furnished, maybe pet friendly, for most people, close to the coast. And of course, those things are all perfectly reasonable. But that type of property is exactly in the category that has the smallest supply. Out of thousands and thousands and thousands of empty homes, only a handful maybe meet the criteria of what most people are looking for. I viewed a lot of rental properties when I got here 3 years ago in Guatemala, and they just weren't suitable. You know, they were run down, there was no pool, all that sort of stuff. There's plenty of those, but even now they're getting expensive. And of course, any that are out there, they're the ones that vanish in days. They're up and they're gone. I have a friend who decided to rent out a property in my complex and went to a rental person to say, I want to put it up, and they had it rented out before they advertised it. A small apartment. So if you do find somewhere, if that's what you're doing, and you like it, take it. Don't put it off and we'll have a look at another few and come back. They go so quick. Know what you want and make your decision quickly. Now, everyone does what I did. They use the online portals, the websites, Idealista and websites like that. And they're great to look at apartments and get a feel for areas and all that sort of stuff. But my experience was awful. Maybe 1 in every 10 that you contacted got back to you, usually with a negative, it's already gone or whatever. And you know, a lot of people who are planning to move to places like this rely heavily on them. I must have looked at thousands of properties before I actually came here. A lot of the properties aren't really long-term rentals. Many that you see are rentals for around 9 months. So that's out of season because the owners want to rent them out as holiday homes during the summer for the higher money. So a big chunk of the ones I looked at meant you would have to be out in 9 months. You can't be there June, July and August, which is no good. So they flood their search results to make it look like the supply of long-term rentals is much bigger than it is. So that's obviously a ploy they use. I don't know why they use it, but it's the way things are. And in the end, I eventually moved to Spain, me, my 2 dogs and everything I had. Before I found a rental, I moved into a cheap hotel and found a place to rent within a week by going from agents to agents to agents, just looking at their boards and getting in and talking to them. You find whatever's on their board is still going to be available. So yeah, it's so much easier when you're actually on the ground. If you're planning on coming here to live, come here for a holiday first, come for a week, whatever, and find your apartment when you're here. And there's a load of, I've made other videos, you know, it's dangerous picking one and maybe signing for something when you haven't actually visited. You don't know what the street's like, you don't know what the neighbours are like. Photographs can make places look a lot better than they are. So that's why I never rely on websites now. And another thing is, a lot of the good rentals never make it online at all, for the reason that I just said. Estate agents, by and large, fill the property here with walk-ins and people who have put their name down for an apartment. So by the time anything reaches the internet, I'm not saying this is a case for all, but certainly a lot. By the time anything reaches the internet, it's often already taken, which is why you get ignored whenever you send them a message or whatever. And add to that the illusion. My presidente here in this urbanisation recently told me that the average occupational rate in off-peak season is 25 to 30%, and during peak season, 50% maximum. And I can tell you, I walked through this morning, late November, it feels even less than that. I love it like this, but it's really, really quiet. And by the way, I filmed my two best friends in Spain sitting at the pool this morning, and they're the first people I've seen sitting at the pool for ages. So yeah, mostly empty, but again, that doesn't mean available. And that's the part that catches so many people who are wanting to move here and rent off guard. Now, I also walked through Villamartin this morning, so you could see exactly what I'm talking about, even in the busiest area in this area. Did that make sense? I hope it did. Beautiful apartments, gorgeous balconies, well-kept grass and lawns, everything's manicured beautifully. Huge pools behind all those walls. Perfect weather, and yet hardly anyone here full-time. You know, when I walk around this area in the evenings with Molly, my dog, balcony after balcony after balcony in total darkness. And here's the crazy part, the twist to this whole story. The emptiest areas tend to have zero, or practically zero, rentals. The better the apartment, the less likely it is to be rented out long term. And of course, logically, you'd think the bigger urbanizations with more apartments would have more rentals, but they don't. In fact, in reality, the opposite is often true. Empty homes are mostly holiday complexes, seasonal, owner-occupied, locked by overseas families. Meanwhile, in the busiest areas, where people actually live all year round, closer to the coast, is where people who are hoping to become residents compete hardest for rentals. So the illusion, I hope that all made sense. So the illusion is this: the more empty an area looks, the fewer long-term rentals that it usually has. And that moves me on to rising prices. I've done quite a few videos about renting property in Spain, and I noticed in the last few that I did quite rapidly after I'd made them, the financial side of it was a bit out of date. Rentals in this area have increased dramatically over the past 18 months. Not everywhere and not in every town, especially inland, but enough to matter, enough to make a difference. And I was looking it up. Here in the Alicante region, increases have been between 9 and 13% year on year for the past 2 years. And places like Valencia City and Alicante, that rise has been even more, even stronger. So I hit on this near the start of the video. Why renting sooner rather than later might save you a lot of stress, time and money. And you know, I'm not trying to push anyone into rushing. I'm just trying to make you aware of the way things are. So being honest, if you're thinking of moving here and renting, sooner is going to be much better than later. By the way, I'm getting tortured by a fly. I've sort of hidden it well, but it just won't go away. Don't know, maybe you can see it. It just went away now. It must have decided to let me say that wee bit, but it'll be back. And you know, more and more expats and immigrants are moving here from all over Europe each year. And the more specific the property you're looking for, the the harder it's getting. Trying to get a property that will accept your dogs now is very, very difficult. And then agents can be more selective, and paperwork checks are becoming more stringent. The government are being pushed in to make things a bit tighter. And just as a tip, if you are moving here, sort of after the season finishes, coming into the winter, that's the best time to be looking for property. That's when you're going to get the best deals, and you're going to have the most properties available for let, although there aren't very many, and it'll give you a better chance of getting a better deal. Don't come here in July looking for long-term property. Waste of time, I think, my opinion. Right, so I'm nearly finished. Just to clarify, in my view, what genuinely helps is walk into rental and estate agents and don't use the websites for anything other than information on the types of property in the areas and that sort of thing. You need to really be flexible with the exact area. Consider moving inland, more properties, better price. Have your documents ready. Make sure you have your deposit, proof of income, bank statements, everything. Have it prepared. Don't wait till you find a property and, right, we better go and start getting this stuff. You'll lose the property or you're liable to lose the property. Search in winter, and when you find a good place, don't hesitate. The good rentals here at the right price, which there aren't many left, Simply don't wait around. So yes, Spain does have this very strange situation where there are thousands and thousands of empty properties sitting empty with almost none available for long-term renting. So yeah, it's not that the housing doesn't exist. It took me a long time to figure this out. It's just that the owners of those properties don't want long-term, all year round tenants. And you know, knowing this sort of, I'm calling it an illusion, I don't know what else to call it, but it's half the battle. Puts you in a stronger position. At least you know the situation. And if you're determined, you'll always get what you want. Well, that's how I look at life. Everything I plan for, I eventually will get there. And when you understand how the market works here, you can plan properly. And hopefully you'll find something good with much less stress. All right, so that's it for this one. I hope you've enjoyed it. Now, before I sign off, I've something to talk about. I'm going to make a video, maybe the next video, about purchasing fire sticks from people online here in Spain. And the one thing I'll say to you, a lot of the people who are selling or pretending to sell fire sticks are not even in Spain, they're home in the UK or wherever. I've recently got ripped off. First time in my life. I'm not somebody that falls for anything. But about 6 months ago, I got contacted on Facebook by a guy saying, are you interested in a fire stick? Now the fire stick I was having problems with. And I says, I might be, but not for 6 months. I'll let you know if I want anything. Now the reason why I did that, the guy who contacted me had a Facebook profile. And I think it was 26 of his friends are my friends on Facebook. So I thought, well, this guy must have sold to all those people. So it's going to be a safe bet. My previous contract ran out the other day. I contacted this fella. He says, yeah, €50 and I'll download the stuff to you. So that was okay. I said okay, and he told me what to do, and I sent the €50. And he had then went through a process with me, and I ended up downloading the downloader and downloading Sky Glass and everything else, and couldn't get it working. And at this stage I was still okay, you know, that these technical things can be very annoying. So we tried another, it wasn't Sky Glass, another one, and got it working. And then he says to me, now the only problem is they'll only do for 2 years. It's another €50. And I said to him, no, I don't know you from Adam. I'm not going to be giving you another 50. And I've never heard of 2-year contracts and all this. And this went on for an hour or two. And he said, yeah, I assure you, he's used the word, it's not a con or anything like that. And he says, what I've set up for you is only set up for 24 hours. It'll go dead tomorrow night unless you take out the full contract. And I was ended up in a position where I felt I had no choice. And €100 is €100, but it's not the complete end of the world. So I paid the €100, expecting it all to happen. And it didn't happen again. And about 2 hours later, he says to me, there's a charge and you're going to have to pay another charge. Ripped off, completely ripped off. And I've been thinking about it ever since. This guy, what he does, if any of my 26 friends on Facebook are watching this, they'll be thinking, well, he didn't do that in us. But that's how it works. That's how he cons you. He sells you, he adds you as a friend, or he gets you to be a friend on Facebook. People like me, fools like me, see that and get ripped off. So don't give him another penny. There's plenty of people. And I spent last night then, I was actually using, for one of the first times, ChatGPT to look into all this stuff. There's thousands of them doing it, just ripping people off. And it's a really good rip off because it's not a lot of money. And you think because he's been in contact with people that you, in a way, know that you're not going to get ripped off. But a low-life scumbag. So if any of this has happened to anyone who's watching this, or any of my 26 friends on Facebook, love to hear from you. Write something in the comments, because I think I'm going to do a full video and I'm going to expose this guy. And by the way, this is his Facebook page, okay? But this isn't just about him. It's about do not do anything on your phone from someone who has contacted you. The way, this crafty way that he done this made me feel like I was safe, and I wasn't. So there's a good chance I'm going to make a video on it, and it'd be great to have as much information from anyone who's had similar experiences before I make the video. All right, but as I say, this is the guy. Oh, that's enough. No, there's more. This is him. Right? Anyone that's looking at that thinking, well, that's who we're with and he's fine. He's not. All right. So guys, I'm going to leave it off there. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it useful. Please give it a thumbs up as usual. Subscribe if you want to see more. But until next time, bye for now.